Captain Jake Morrison sat in his chair on the bridge of the human ship Liberty and watched the stars outside the window. His coffee had gone cold hours ago, but he did not care. The communication screen in front of him showed another message from the Zilani Trade Federation asking for help. It was the fifth request this week. Amy Carter walked over to him with a datapad in her hands. She was his best officer and had been with him for 3 years. Her face looked tired and angry. Jake knew how she felt because he felt the same way. "Captain, we have the numbers you asked for," Amy said. She handed him the pad and waited. "In the last month alone, we lost 212 human soldiers protecting alien trade routes and colonies. The families back on Earth are asking why their sons and daughters died for people who do not even know their names." Jake looked at the numbers on the screen. Each number was a person. Each person had a family. Each family would never see their loved one again. All because aliens called for help and humans answered. It had been this way for 30 years since Earth first met other species in space. The Zilani were tall and thin with skin that looked like crystal. They were beautiful and smart, and built amazing ships that could travel faster than anything humans had ever made. But when pirates attacked their trade ships, the Zilani did not fight back. They called humans to do their fighting for them. The Keth looked like large cats that walked on 2 legs. They were peaceful and kind and made wonderful art and music. But when other species tried to take their planets, the Keth did not defend themselves. They hired human soldiers to fight their wars. The Altari had 4 arms and huge brains that could solve problems humans could not even understand.
They invented machines that seemed like magic to human scientists.
But when someone tried to kill their leaders, the Altari did not protect themselves. They paid humans to be their guards. It was always the same story. Aliens had problems. Humans fixed the problems. Aliens went back to their comfortable lives. Humans buried their dead and waited for the next call for help. Jake stood up and walked to the big window that showed space outside. Somewhere out there, human ships were fighting and dying right now. Somewhere out there, alien leaders were sitting in safe rooms making decisions about wars they would never fight. "Amy, show me the Galactic Council meeting from yesterday," Jake said. Amy pressed buttons on her control panel and the main screen changed. It showed the great hall where all the alien species met to talk about important things. The camera focused on a Vorn delegate. The Vorn looked like walking trees with too many arms. This one was talking about the war in the Outer Rim. "The conflict has been resolved thanks to human military intervention," the Vorn said in its strange voice that sounded like wind through leaves. "We can now focus on the peace talks to make sure this never happens again." Jake felt his hands make fists. Humans had fought that war. Humans had died in that war. Humans had won that war. But now the aliens were going to decide what happened next, and humans were not invited. Amy fast-forwarded the recording to another part. An Altari delegate was speaking now. Its 4 arms moved in patterns as it talked. "While we appreciate the service provided by human forces, we must remember that they are from a death world," the Altari said. "Their violent nature makes them useful for military operations, but unsuitable for civilized diplomacy. They simply cannot understand the complex nature of peaceful negotiation." The recording continued, but Jake had heard enough. He walked back to his chair and sat down hard. Around him, his bridge crew continued their work, but he could see they were all listening. They had all heard the same words he had. Deathworlders. That was what the aliens called humans. Earth was a death world because it was dangerous compared to other planets. Humans were Deathworlders because they had learned to survive on a dangerous planet. The aliens said this like it was something bad. Jake thought about Earth and smiled despite his anger. Yes, Earth was dangerous. It had storms that could destroy cities and animals that could kill with one bite. It had diseases and earthquakes and volcanoes. It had humans who fought wars and hurt each other and made terrible mistakes. But Earth was also beautiful. It had oceans full of life and mountains that touched the sky. It had forests and deserts and grasslands where amazing creatures lived. It had humans who loved and helped each other and made wonderful things. The danger made the beauty more precious. The aliens did not understand this. Their worlds were safe and clean and predictable. They had never learned that sometimes you had to fight to protect what you loved. They had never learned that sometimes being strong was the only way to keep the weak safe. A new message appeared on Jake's screen. It was from Admiral Kevin Stone, who commanded all human forces in this part of space. Jake opened it and read the words that would change everything. "All human commanders report to secure Channel 7 in 1 hour. Priority Alpha. Tell no one. Jake looked at Amy and saw that she had gotten the same message on her pad. Around the bridge, other officers were checking their communications. They all had the same confused look on their faces. "Captain, what do you think this is about?" Amy asked. Jake did not answer right away. He had a feeling he knew what Admiral Stone wanted to talk about. He had been hearing whispers from other human commanders for weeks. Whispers about being tired of dying for people who did not respect them. Whispers about going home and letting the aliens solve their own problems. 1 hour later, Jake sat in his ready room and watched Admiral Stone's face on his private screen. The Admiral looked older than Jake remembered. His gray hair was messy and his eyes looked like he had not slept in days. "Commanders, I will be brief," Admiral Stone said. "The Galactic Council voted this morning on the peace treaty for the Kalar conflict. The same conflict where we lost 47 good soldiers last week. They voted to exclude human representatives from all negotiations. They said we are too primitive and aggressive to participate in civilized discussion." Jake felt something cold grow in his stomach. Around the galaxy, he knew other human commanders were feeling the same thing. "Effective immediately, all human forces will withdraw from alien military commitments," Admiral Stone continued. "Pack your gear. Recall your people. We are going home. The aliens can solve their own problems from now on." The screen went dark and Jake sat alone in his room. Outside his window, the stars looked the same as always, but everything had changed. For 30 years, humans had been the galaxy's soldiers and police and guards. Tomorrow they would be something else. Tomorrow they would see what happened when Deathworlders stopped being nice. The message went out across the galaxy, faster than light itself. Every human ship received the same coded signal at exactly the same time. "Pack up and come home. No exceptions, no delays. No questions asked." Captain Lisa Rodriguez was on patrol near the Keth border when her communication officer handed her the decoded message. She read it twice to make sure she understood. Then she looked out at the space around her ship, where Keth and Nakari vessels faced each other in a tense standoff that had lasted 3 months. "All ships. This is Captain Rodriguez," she said into her microphone. "New orders from command. We are leaving this sector immediately. Prepare for jump to human space." Her bridge crew looked surprised but began working at their stations. They had been keeping peace between the Keth and Nakari for so long that leaving felt strange. The 2 alien fleets would be alone for the first time in months. "Captain, the Keth commander is asking to speak with you," her communication officer said. Lisa shook her head. "Tell them we are no longer available for consultation. All questions should be directed to Earth through proper diplomatic channels." On the other side of the galaxy, Commander Tony Martinez was pulling his anti-piracy ships away from Zalani trade routes. His 12 vessels had been protecting merchant convoys for 2 years. The pirates who attacked Zalani ships knew to stay away when humans were around. "Sir, the Zalani are asking why we are leaving," his second-in-command said. Tony watched the Zalani trade ships on his screen. They looked so fragile and helpless without human escorts, but that was not his problem anymore. "Tell them our contract has been terminated by mutual agreement," Tony said. "They should contact their government for new security arrangements." The Zalani ship commander appeared on Tony's screen. She was tall and thin with crystal skin that sparkled when she moved. Her large eyes looked worried. "Commander Martinez, you cannot leave us here alone," she said. "The Corvan pirates will attack as soon as you are gone. We have no weapons to defend ourselves." Tony felt bad for her, but his orders were clear. "I am sorry, but human forces are no longer available for escort duty. You should consider hiring local security or changing your routes to safer areas." The Zalani commander's eyes grew wider. "But we have always relied on human protection. This is how things have been for 30 years. You cannot just abandon us." "Watch us," Tony said and cut the communication. Major Elena Vasquez had the hardest job of all. She commanded the human troops that protected Altari government buildings on their home world. Her soldiers had been there so long that some had married local humans who worked at the embassy. "Pack everything," Elena told her sergeants. "Personal gear, weapons, equipment, everything. We leave nothing behind." Sergeant Bill Murphy looked confused. "Ma'am, what about our protection contracts?" "The Altari Council has meetings all week. Intelligence says there are 3 different groups planning attacks." Elena understood his confusion. Her troops had stopped 17 assassination attempts in the past year. The Altari leaders would be completely helpless without human guards. "Not our problem anymore, Sergeant," Elena said. "Load the transports. We ship out in 6 hours." The news of human withdrawal spread through alien governments like fire through dry grass. Emergency meetings were called on every major world. Diplomatic channels buzzed with confused and angry messages. Director Carl Bishop sat in his office on the human colony world of New Montana and watched reports coming in from across the galaxy. His job was to coordinate all human civilian activities outside Earth space. Now he was implementing Protocol 7. Protocol 7 was a plan that human leaders had developed years ago, but hoped they would never need to use. It was the complete withdrawal of human presence from alien space except for essential diplomatic functions. "Sir, the Vorn are demanding to speak with you," his assistant said. Carl looked at the long list of alien officials who wanted to talk to him. Every major species in the galaxy was calling. All of them were angry or scared or both. "Tell them I will speak with their ambassador tomorrow at the scheduled diplomatic meeting," Carl said.
No special appointments.
"No emergency sessions. We follow normal procedures from now on." His assistant looked surprised. "Sir, they are saying this is a galactic emergency." Carl smiled for the first time in weeks. "Their emergency, not ours." On Earth, President Helen Clark stood before the cameras in the Oval Office. Her speech would be broadcast to every world in human space and transmitted to alien governments through diplomatic channels. "My fellow humans and friends throughout the galaxy," she began. "Today marks a new chapter in human history. For 30 years we have served as peacekeepers and protectors for civilizations across the stars. We have bled and died to maintain order and safety for species who considered us their servants, rather than their partners." She paused and looked directly into the camera. "This ends today. Humanity withdraws from all military agreements with alien governments. We will no longer serve as hired soldiers or private security. We will no longer die for causes where we have no voice in the decisions." President Clark's voice stayed calm and professional, but her words hit like hammer blows. "We do not do this with anger or hatred. We do this with the hope that our friends in the galaxy will learn to see us as equals rather than tools. When they are ready to treat us with the respect that partners deserve, we will be ready to talk." The speech lasted only 5 minutes, but it changed everything. Within hours, human ships were jumping away from alien space. Human soldiers were packing their gear on 100 different worlds. Human diplomats were returning to Earth. Ambassador Ryan Kelly was one of the few humans who stayed. His job was to represent Earth at the Galactic Council. He sat in the council chamber and watched alien delegates argue and panic. "This is illegal," shouted a Vorn delegate. "Humans have signed treaties. They have obligations." Ryan stood up slowly. Every alien in the room turned to look at him. "Every contract signed by human forces contains standard withdrawal clauses for diplomatic reasons. We are exercising those clauses. All withdrawals are completely legal under galactic law." A Zilani delegate raised her hand. "But why? We have always paid human forces fairly. We have treated them with respect." Ryan almost laughed. "Respect? You have treated us like a useful animal species. You hire us to fight your wars but exclude us from peace talks. You call us Deathworlders like it is something shameful. You use us when you need us and ignore us when you do not." The chamber fell silent. For 30 years, no human had ever spoken to the Galactic Council this way. "When you are ready to treat humanity as an equal partner instead of hired muscle, Earth will listen," Ryan said. "Until then, you are on your own." He walked out of the chamber and left the aliens to figure out their new reality. Behind him, the greatest military force in the galaxy was going home. Soon the galaxy would learn what happened when Deathworlders stopped being nice. 2 weeks after the humans left, the galaxy began to fall apart. The Corvan pirates struck first. They had been watching the Zilani trade routes for months, waiting for the right moment. When the human escort ships disappeared, the pirates knew their time had come. Captain Zara of the Zilani merchant vessel Crystal Wind was the first to die. Her ship carried rare metals worth millions of credits. She had made this same journey dozens of times with human escorts. The pirates had never dared to attack when humans were present. Now Crystal Wind traveled alone through the dark space between stars. Zara felt nervous, but the Zilani government had assured her that new security arrangements were being made. Local defense forces would protect the trade routes just as well as humans had. The pirates hit her ship without warning. Corvan raiders were brutal and efficient. They cared nothing for Zilani lives, only for the cargo in the hold. Zara sent out a distress call as the pirates cut through her ship's hull. "Any human vessel, please respond." She broadcast on all frequencies. "We are under attack and need immediate assistance." No human ships answered because there were no human ships in Zalani space anymore. The local defense force was 3 hours away. By the time they arrived, Crystal Wind was a burning wreck drifting through space and Zara was dead. The news of the attack spread quickly through Zalani space. Within days, 3 more merchant ships had been destroyed. The pirates grew bolder with each successful raid. Soon, entire convoys were being wiped out. Far away in Keith territory, the situation was even worse. Without human peacekeepers to maintain the buffer zones, the Nakari had decided to solve their border dispute the old way. They attacked Keith colonies with overwhelming force. The Keith had not fought a real war in over a century. Their military was small and used mostly for ceremonies. They had beautiful uniforms and perfect parade formations, but they had no idea how to fight an actual battle. Commander Flix of the Keth Defense Force watched his ships being destroyed on the tactical display. The Nakari vessels were older and slower than Keth ships, but they knew how to use their weapons. The Keth had spent so long relying on human protection that they had forgotten how to protect themselves. Send another message to the human embassy, Flix ordered his communication officer. Tell them we will pay triple the usual rate for immediate military assistance. The answer came back quickly. Human military forces are not available. Please contact your government for alternative security solutions. Flix stared at the message in disbelief. For 30 years, the humans had always come when called. They had stopped wars before they started and kept peace in the most dangerous parts of space. Now when the Keth needed them most, the humans were nowhere to be found. The first Keth colony fell 2 days later. The Nakari conquered it in less than 6 hours. Refugees fled in every direction, carrying stories of defeat and destruction. The Keth government declared a state of emergency, but they had no idea what to do next. On the Altari homeworld, things were just as bad. President Vex of the Altari Council was attending a trade summit when the assassins struck. For 3 years, human bodyguards had protected him from 7 different assassination attempts. The humans always seemed to know when danger was coming. The new Altari security team did not have human instincts. They were smart and well-trained, but they thought like Altari. They looked for logical threats and reasonable dangers. They did not understand that sometimes killers acted without logic or reason. The bomb exploded during the opening ceremony of the trade summit. President Vex and 12 other Altari leaders died instantly. The assassins escaped in the chaos that followed. Within hours, 2 more Altari government buildings were attacked by different groups. The Altari had many enemies who had been waiting for the human guards to leave. Old grudges and ancient hatred surfaced like poison rising through water. Groups that had not dared to act while humans were present now saw their chance for revenge. Emergency meetings were called on every major world in the galaxy. Alien leaders who had spent 30 years making decisions in safe rooms now found themselves hiding in bunkers and armored shelters. The galaxy was remembering how dangerous it could be without human protection. Ambassador Ryan Kelly sat in his office at the human embassy and watched the reports coming in. His desk was covered with desperate messages from alien governments. They offered money, technology, territory, anything humans might want. All they asked for in return was protection. Sir, the Vorn ambassador is here to see you, his secretary announced. He says it is urgent. Ryan looked at his appointment schedule. The Vorn ambassador was not supposed to meet with him until next week. But these were not normal times. Ambassador Kresh of the Vorn entered the office looking nervous. The Vorn usually carried themselves with great dignity, but Kresh seemed smaller somehow. His many arms moved in worried patterns as he spoke. Ambassador Kelly, my government has authorized me to make a formal offer, Kresh said. We will provide humans with advanced shield technology and exclusive mining rights to 3-star systems. In exchange, we ask only for the return of human peacekeeping forces to the Outer Rim. Ryan leaned back in his chair. That is a generous offer, Ambassador. I will certainly pass it along to my government. However, I should remind you that Earth's position has not changed. We are willing to discuss new partnerships, but only as equals. Kresh's arms moved faster. What does that mean exactly? What do humans want? The same thing any intelligent species wants, Ryan said. Respect, recognition, a voice in the decisions that affect us. For 30 years, humans have fought and died to maintain galactic peace. In return, we have been treated like hired muscle and excluded from important discussions. But humans are warriors, Kresh said. That is what you are good at. We never meant to insult you. Ryan smiled, but there was no warmth in it. And the Vorn are good at engineering. Does that mean you should only be allowed to fix machines? Should we exclude you from all discussions about politics or trade, because engineering is your specialty? Kresh fell silent as he began to understand. The aliens had put humans in a box labeled soldiers and refused to see them as anything else. They had taken human strength for granted and ignored human intelligence. The galaxy is learning a hard lesson, Ambassador. Ryan continued. Peace is not the natural state of the universe. It must be maintained by those willing to fight for it. Humans are still willing to fight for peace, but we will no longer fight for people who do not respect us as partners. Outside the embassy window, Ryan could see Altari security forces building barricades around government buildings. The galaxy's most advanced civilization was learning to live in fear because they had forgotten how to defend themselves. Soon every species in the galaxy would understand what humans had always known. Sometimes the only way to have peace was to be ready for war. 6 months had passed since humans withdrew from alien space and the galaxy looked like a completely different place. The neat borders and peaceful trade routes that had existed for 30 years were gone. In their place was chaos and confusion as species remembered what life was like without human protection. General Patricia Wells stood on the observation deck of her flagship and watched a Zilani convoy being attacked by pirates just outside human territory. Her sensors showed the desperate battle clearly. 3 merchant ships were trying to escape while Corvin raiders closed in for the kill. General, the Zilani are broadcasting distress calls on all frequencies, her communication officer reported. They are specifically asking for human assistance. Patricia did not move from the window. Are they in human space? No, ma'am. They are exactly 2 light minutes outside our border. Then it is not our problem, Patricia said. She watched the first Zilani ship explode in a ball of fire. Continue monitoring, but do not intervene. Her bridge crew looked uncomfortable, but they followed orders. For 30 years, human ships would have rushed to help any vessel in distress. Now they watched alien ships die and did nothing to stop it. The pirates finished their attack and jumped away with their stolen cargo. The surviving Zilani ships limped toward human space, but Patricia's fleet did not move to escort them. The message was clear. Humans would protect human space, but nothing beyond it. Admiral Frank Torres received similar distress calls every day from his position near Keth territory. Nakari forces had conquered 6 Keth colonies and were advancing toward the Keth homeworld. The Keth military was in full retreat and their government was begging for human intervention. Admiral, the Keth High Command is offering us exclusive mining rights to their entire outer rim, his intelligence officer reported. They say they will give humans anything we want in exchange for military support. Frank read the offer carefully. It was incredibly generous. The Keth were offering resources worth trillions of credits. A few years ago, such an offer would have been accepted immediately. Send them a standard diplomatic response, Frank said. Tell them all requests for military assistance must go through proper channels on Earth. We are not a mercenary company for hire. The intelligence officer looked confused. Sir, they are offering us half their territory. Frank turned to face his officer. Lieutenant, do you understand why we withdrew from alien space? To get better treatment, sir. No, Frank said. We withdrew because they treated us like hired guns instead of partners. If we take their money and fight their wars, we become hired guns again. We are worth more than that. Across the galaxy, other human commanders were making similar decisions. Captain Danny Rodriguez refused to help Altari security forces even when they offered human colonies advanced technology. Commander Sarah Mitchell ignored Vorn requests for escort duty, despite promises of exclusive trade agreements. The aliens began to understand that money and resources were not enough to bring humans back. They needed to offer something more valuable, respect. But while some species were learning this lesson, others were taking advantage of the chaos. The Skarn Consortium had been a minor power when humans maintained galactic peace. Now they were expanding aggressively into territories left undefended. The Skarn were traders and merchants, but they were also ruthless when opportunity presented itself. They moved into former Keth colonies and established their own harsh version of order. They took control of abandoned Zilani trade routes and charged high fees for safe passage. Most dangerous of all, the Kreks were stirring. For 15 years, human peacekeepers had kept the warrior species contained in their home systems. The Kreks had superior numbers and weapons, but they had been prevented from using them by the constant threat of human intervention. Now, that threat was gone, and Kreks leaders We're making plans. War Chief Grax stood before the Krex High Command and outlined his strategy for galactic conquest. The Great Hall was filled with Krex warriors eager for battle after years of forced peace. The humans have abandoned their posts, Grax announced. The soft species that depended on human protection are defenseless. This is our time to take what should have been ours long ago. The Krex had been studying galactic defenses for decades while pretending to accept human peacekeeping. They knew exactly where to strike and when. Their first target would be the Galactic Council Station itself. When we control the Council Station, we control the galaxy, Grax continued. The humans will have to negotiate with us as equals or watch the galaxy burn. Back in human space, intelligence reports about Krex movements reached Earth. President Helen Clark read the briefings with growing concern. The Krex were massing their fleets and making threatening statements. War was coming whether humans wanted it or not. How long before they make their move? She asked Director Carl Bishop. Our analysts say 2 weeks at most, Carl replied. They are waiting for the right moment when alien defenses are at their weakest. Helen walked to her office window and looked out at the peaceful Earth below. Somewhere out there, human children were playing in parks while their parents worked normal jobs. They had no idea that the galaxy was about to explode into violence. What do our former allies want us to do? She asked. Carl consulted his notes. The Altari are offering us full citizenship in their federation. The Keth promise equal representation on their ruling council. The Zilani want to make humans partners in their trade empire. Even the Vorn are talking about sharing their advanced technology. And what do they want in return? The same thing they have always wanted, Carl said. Protection. Helen was quiet for a long moment. Outside her window, she could see the lights of cities where humans lived free and safe lives. That safety had been bought with human blood spilled on alien worlds. Set up a meeting with the alien ambassadors, she said finally. But this time we meet as equals or we do not meet at all. The meeting took place 3 days later in the human embassy on Earth. Representatives from every major alien species attended. They sat around a table where humans had once been excluded from important decisions. Ambassador Ryan Kelly addressed the assembled aliens. My government has reviewed your offers and we appreciate the gesture. However, Earth's position remains unchanged. We will only consider military partnerships with species that treat us as full equals. The Altari ambassador raised one of her 4 hands. What exactly does that mean? What do humans want? The same thing you want, Ryan replied. Security for our people, respect for our contributions, a voice in decisions that affect us. We are willing to help maintain galactic peace, but we will do it as partners, not employees. The alien ambassadors looked at each other nervously. Outside the embassy, intelligence reports were coming in about Krex fleet movements. Time was running out and they knew it. Soon they would have to choose between accepting humans as equals or facing the coming storm alone. The emergency signal came from the Galactic Council Station at 3 in the morning Earth time. President Helen Clark was awakened by her security chief, who handed her a communication pad with shaking hands. Madam President, the Krex have taken the council station, he said. All council members have evacuated. They are asking for human help. Helen read the message twice before she fully understood what had happened. The Krex were a warrior species that humans had been keeping in check for 15 years. They were strong and aggressive, and had always wanted to control the galaxy's central government. Without human forces to stop them, they had finally made their move. The attack had been swift and brutal. Krex warships had surrounded the massive station that housed the Galactic Council. The station's defense fleet was destroyed in less than 2 hours. Krex soldiers had stormed through the halls where alien diplomats had debated peaceful solutions for decades. Now those same diplomats were fleeing in whatever ships they could find. The proud leaders of a dozen civilizations were running like scared children. They had sent a desperate message to Earth begging for human intervention. Get me Admiral Stone, Helen said to her aide. Kevin Stone appeared on the communication screen looking tired but alert. Behind him, Helen could see the bridge of his flagship where human officers worked at their stations. Madam President, I assume you have heard about the council station, Stone said. I have, Helen replied. What is our response? Stone was quiet for a moment. The old council is gone. The aliens who excluded us from their decisions are now asking us to save them. This is our chance to change everything. Helen nodded. She had been thinking the same thing. For 30 years, humanity had fought to protect a system that treated them as servants. Now that system was broken. They could build something better in its place. "Prepare the fleet, Admiral," Helen said. "But this time we do things differently." Within hours, human ships were moving toward the Council Station from bases across the galaxy. But they were not rushing to save the fleeing aliens. They were coming to establish a new order. Ambassador Ryan Kelly received the first communication from the evacuated council members. They were hiding on a small moon 3 light-years from the station. Their message was desperate and pleading. "Ambassador Kelly, you must convince your government to retake the station immediately," the message said. "The Krex cannot be allowed to control the galactic government. We are prepared to discuss human membership in the council." Ryan smiled as he composed his reply. "Earth appreciates your offer, but the old council no longer exists. When the station is retaken, it will be under the authority of a new galactic alliance. Humanity will be a founding member with full voting rights." The aliens' response was immediate and angry. They accused humans of taking advantage of a crisis. They said humans were being unreasonable and opportunistic. They demanded that Earth restore the previous government immediately. Ryan sent back a simple message. "You have 2 choices. Accept the new alliance as equal partners or handle the Krex problem yourselves." The aliens chose to keep arguing for 3 more days. During that time, the Krex consolidated their control over the station and began broadcasting their own demands to the galaxy. They wanted tribute from all species. They wanted control over major trade routes. They wanted other species to acknowledge Krex supremacy. Finally, the fleeing council members realized they had no other options. They sent a formal agreement to Earth accepting the terms for a new galactic alliance. Admiral Stone led the human fleet that approached the council station. The Krex had been expecting this moment. Their ships formed a defensive line around the massive structure. Krex commanders had studied human tactics for years while human peacekeepers kept them under control. What they had not studied was what humans could do when they stopped holding back. The battle lasted 6 hours, and it was not really a battle at all. It was a demonstration of what happened when the galaxy's most effective military force decided to solve a problem permanently. Captain Jake Morrison commanded one of the assault groups that retook the station. His ship Liberty had been upgraded with new weapons that human engineers had been developing in secret. The Krex discovered that their knowledge of human capabilities was 15 years out of date. "Krex command vessel, this is Captain Morrison of the human vessel Liberty," Jake broadcast on all frequencies. "You have 60 seconds to surrender, or we will demonstrate why other species call us Deathworlders." The Krex commander's response was full of threats and insults. Jake cut the communication and gave the order to attack. The human assault was precise and overwhelming. Krex ships that had seemed invincible suddenly found themselves outgunned and outmaneuvered. Human boarding parties moved through the station like ghosts, appearing where the Krex did not expect them, and vanishing when resistance formed. Major Elena Vasquez led the team that captured the main council chamber. The Krex warriors who had been celebrating their victory just hours before now found themselves facing human soldiers who fought with cold efficiency. "Krex forces, lay down your weapons," Elena announced. "This station is now under human protection. Anyone who surrenders will be treated according to galactic law. Anyone who resists will be removed." The Krex had always respected strength above all else. When they saw how easily humans had defeated them, they surrendered without further fighting. Their commander was brought before Elena with his hands bound. "You humans fight like demons," he said with something that might have been admiration. "We fight like humans," Elena replied. "There is a difference." 3 months later, the new Galactic Alliance held its first meeting in the restored council chamber. The seats were arranged differently now. Humanity sat at the head table as a founding member with permanent voting rights. Ambassador Kelly looked around the chamber at the alien delegates. Some looked resentful. Others seemed relieved. All of them looked at humans with new respect. President Helen Clark gave the opening address to the Alliance. Her words were broadcast across the galaxy to billions of beings on thousands of worlds. The old order was built on the idea that some species were naturally suited for certain roles, she said. Humans were soldiers. Others were diplomats or traders or scientists. Today we begin a new order based on the idea that all species deserve respect and representation. She paused and looked directly at the alien delegates. Peace is not maintained by good intentions or noble words. Peace is maintained by those willing to fight for it. Humans are still willing to fight for peace. but we will do so as partners, not servants. The galaxy had learned its lesson. Sometimes being nice meant being willing to stop being nice. Sometimes respect had to be demanded before it would be given. And sometimes the only way to have peace was to show others what happened when that peace was threatened. The Deathworlders had had enough, and the galaxy was finally ready to treat them as equals.